way to my last calling point in Somerset. I will stop in Bath, which Bradshaw's describes as a handsome city built entirely of stone, with so many historic associations that there's scarcely a house but has at least one famous personage associated with it. I'm on the trail of someone who arrived only in 1936, a distinguished refugee who foresaw that fascism's appetite for conquest was insatiable. During the 1930s, Britain tried to avoid war in Europe, allowing Hitler to expand German territory unchecked, and standing by while Italy's Benito Mussolini sought to build a new Roman Empire. How did the affluent Georgian spa town of Bath come to welcome such an unlikely resident as the Emperor of Abyssinia, now Ethiopia, Haile Selassie? I'm meeting Dr. Sean Sobers at Fairfield House, overlooking the city. Hello, Sean.
Hello, Michael. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Yeah, thank you.
So Fairfield House is quite an imposing house, isn't it? Do you know anything about the origins of it?
Well, it's a late 19th century house. It's a grand family house, really. And when His Majesty came to Bath, he wanted somewhere private, very secluded, and this fit the bill perfectly.
How was it then that His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, comes to Bath?
So Mussolini invaded Ethiopia, and His Majesty was forced to flee on the 5th of May 1936, ended up in London, and actually is very popular. The British people were watching what was happening in the newsreels, etc. So when His Majesty landed, there was a huge crowd to him. But the British government at that time was still appeasing Mussolini. Having a very popular political refugee, essentially, in London was an embarrassment to the British government. So he was forced out into the provinces, and one of the reasons why they say he came to Bath was because of the healing waters. He had mustard gas burns on his hands, where the Italians used mustard gas damage.
You touch on an episode really of shame in British history that, you know, despite the aggression of the fascists in Ethiopia, Haile Selassie and Ethiopia were not strongly supported.
No, but at the same time, Haile Selassie was a diplomat and knew how politics worked, and went to the League of Nations and gave a very passionate speech to say that actually the League of Nations should defend small states, and saying that if it's us today, it might be you tomorrow.
I decided to come myself to defend the cause of my people before the Council of the League of Nations.
Both Abyssinia and Italy were members of the League of Nations, an international organisation set up in the aftermath of the First World War to preserve peace. The League's charter stated that if one country was invaded, its fellow members would come to its aid. Despite Selassie's pleas, Britain and other member states refused to intervene, and he remained in Bath with his government in exile. What was his daily life like in Bath?
So daily life was quite mundane. He went to the Little Theatre, for example, and he watched the newsreel films of the Ethiopian campaign. He became friends with local businessmen, local politicians. People saw him going for walks. There's a lovely apocryphal story to say that he loved walking so much, and he was very on time, that they would know if they're late for work, depending on how far down the road he was any given morning.
After war broke out and Mussolini allied with Hitler, Britain began to support the Abyssinian cause and liberated the country in 1941. The emperor returned to rule Abyssinia, which became Ethiopia, until he was deposed in 1974. He left Fairfield House to Bath City Council, but his legacy extends across the world. Sean, here we have Haile Selassie, and we've talked about him as emperor, but he's also a deity for Rastafarians. Please explain the connection.
Yeah, Rastafari is the name of Haile Selassie. So Ras is a title, a government title, that's like duke or head, And Tafari is like creator, so head creator, you could shorten it or translate it as. He's the 225th descendant of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, and there were certain prophecies that came into play. One of them was Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey was a prominent Jamaican philosopher, activist, and in 1925 he said, "Look to Africa where a king shall be crowned and the day of deliverance will be at hand." So, in 5 years later, when Haile Selassie was crowned, they saw that as the fulfillment of Marcus Garvey's prophecy.
When Haile Selassie was crowned in 1930, Africans in the West Indies believed he was god of the black race, and Ethiopia the promised land. The Rastafarian movement began.
How did Haile Selassie react to being deified?
He didn't ask to be deified, and it's not always documented that he's comfortable being deified. But at the same time, he is very supportive because he could see what the Rastafari philosophy was all about. It was essentially a Pan-Africanist philosophy.
What was the impact on Rastafari of Haile Selassie's death? He died rather miserably, deposed and imprisoned.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Look, Rastafari, as Bob Marley famously said, he said, Rastafari are children of life and not of death. So his teachings live on, his example lives on, and that's the legacy that still maintains today.
I'm leaving Bath and rejoining the rails towards my final destination.